guys, welcome back to another video with InfoSec Pat. Hope all is well with everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to prepare, or what I'm doing to prepare for the Pentest Plus. Right here we have the whole printout or the blueprint of the Pentest Plus exam. This is the PT0001 exam. So if you're ready, I want to show you some of the key terms for the Pentest Plus and what video series I'm using to study for it. All right, so watch until the end and you should get everything that you need for this exam. And I'm almost ready to take the exam. I should be taking it within the next 2 weeks, I'm hoping. So let's get into it. So this is the Pentest Plus exam, objectives, and about this exam. Let's see if I can scroll on a little bit more. There we go. So the exam details, there's 80 questions, a maximum of 80 questions, at least on this exam at the moment. You have 165 minutes to complete the exam. The recommended experience is 3 to 4 years of hands-on, experience performing pen testing, vulnerability assessments, and vulnerability management. What is that? So vulnerability management is saying you can run like Qualys, you can run Nessus, you can run Tainable, you can run OpenVAS. You know how to generate a vulnerability management software. And you can run an assessment, add IP addresses, add nodes, and just configure it overall. And the management aspect is managing the assessments, okay? So there's 5 domains for this exam. So domain 1 is planning and scoping. So, and then domain 2, information gathering and vulnerability identification. So it's pretty much running a vulnerability assessment, do information gathering information for your target, and finding the vulnerabilities for that specific target. And domain 3 is probably everyone's favorite, right? Attacks and exploits. That's attacking your tool, using your tools to attack the target and exploiting that with like Metasploit or whatever tool that you're utilizing to create this exploitation. And domain 4, penetration testing tools. This is different tools, and we're going to go over what tools and everything in this video. And reporting and communication. This is super critical because everyone thinks I'm going to run an assessment and just give this report to the client, and then all of a sudden, now what? You're not conveying anything to that client. You're not going to tell them what's going on and go over the report. So that's super important for the reporting and communication to get that across to your client. All right, so let's keep going. Let's see if we can use, we can use the up. So planning, I don't want to go read all through these because it'll be a long video, but planning and scoping, pretty much explain the importance of the planning engagement, right? So understanding the target audience, rules of engagement, these are super critical, communication, etc., budget, technical constraints, and then support resources, SOAP, SDK, Swagger document, etc., So, and domain 1.2 is explain key legal concepts. That's super critical. SOWs, scope of work, your NDA, your environmental differences, local, national, government restrictions, corporate policies, and written authorization. Obtain signatures from the proper party. So say, for example, I want to do a pen test or an assessment for your client or for you, and you're the client. I want to make sure that you have the ability to sign off on that assessment, because once I start hacking you or running these attacking tools, and if I don't have authorization, that can be legal trouble. So always remember, you have to get legal consent from your target to make sure you're running these tools, because you can get in big trouble. So stay away from trouble, and that's your pretty much get out of jail free card. Okay, so domain 1.3, explain the importance of scoping and engagement properly, right? So this is pretty important, right? So types of assessments, special scoping considerations, target selections, like what are you doing? An internal, an external one, an on-site one, a physical pen test. Are you trying to test biometric system, the physical security around the boundary of the building? See if you can tailgate into someone's building, you know what I mean? And then, considerations, allow list, deny list, pretty much I'm guessing that's going to be like ACLs, access control lists. And security expectation, IPS, WAFs, it's a web application firewall, allow list. So yeah, network access control is NAC, certificate pinning, companies' policies, etc. And this is a critical one too. The threat actors, APT. You have script kiddies, hacktivists, insider threat. Insider threat is probably the most dangerous, in my opinion. Insider threat is saying, I work inside your organization. Now I have access to everything, right? So now I want to, for an example, they want to do anything. Set up a logic bomb. A logic bomb is executing something and leaving it linger until you want to, exploit that. Putting a remote access Trojan, also known as a rat tool, stuff like that. And insider threats, you have to, that's why DLP is important, data loss prevention. So anything that traverses outside that network, it's logged, right? So people can't send emails from a corporate network to their own Gmail account, Yahoo, because and you can have, like, for an example, in your data loss prevention, social security numbers, anything that triggers a social, and that triggers a credit card number, any kind of data that you want to prevent from being lost or compromised. So that's super important to have that security measure in place, okay? So the strategy is unknown environment versus known environments, potentially known environments, etc. Okay? So 1.4 here, explain the key aspects of the compliant-based audits. So, compliant-based audits, rules to complete assessment, password policy, data isolation. So like a DMZ zone, key management, limitations is, limited network access, limited storage access, etc. Okay? Let's keep going. Let's see. All right, so that's it for that. So now we're going to go to 2.0, information gathering, and vulnerability identification. So given a scenario, conduct information gathering using appropriate techniques, right? So this is probably the most important phase of doing any pen test or any vulnerability assessment or any engagement, because you want to get the proper information before you attack the target, right? You want to make sure you have everything in place before you actually exploit this system or run any kind of attacks or etc. Scanning enumeration, find out the host, the networks, the domains, the users, the groups, the network shares, web pages, applications, services, tokens, etc. Social networking sites. So, you can go on LinkedIn and find out, okay, Bob Smith is the CTO or CFO at ABC Incorporated. Now we know, okay, or we can see who's the help desk people. Maybe we can see who the target is that we want to try to fish information from or whatever. So that's pretty critical stuff. Packet crafting, packet inspection, like DPI, deep packet inspection on like a firewall, fingerprinting, cryptography, a certificate inspection, eavesdropping, and sniffing the Wireshark or the wireless stuff with Aircrack NG, stuff like that. Okay, so open source intelligence, CERT, NIS. These are all cool things you can just search on the internet for these. I don't want to go into deep detail because I don't want this video being longer than probably it's going to be. It's already almost at 10 minutes. So given a scenario, perform a vulnerability scan, okay? What's a credential scan versus a non-credential scan? That's super critical, because if I just run a vulnerability test against an IIS server, right? A Windows web application or web server. If I just say I want to send I'm internal, I want to send it to 192.168.1.250. That's our web server. Now, if I just scan it, it's going to try to see whatever it needs to see. But so now if I have like admin or some kind of credentials to authenticate to that server, it'll get deeper and more accurate versus false positives. So that's super critical to understand the difference between those two. Types of scans: discovery scan, full scan, stealth scan, compliance scan. Understanding what kind of scan you need to do for your target. Okay? Container security, application scan, dynamic versus static analysis. All this good stuff. Consideration of vulnerability scanning. Time to run the scan. You may not want to run the scan during business hours because you're in business hours. You don't want to slow down the systems and bring things to a crawl. The protocols used. Is it UDP, TCP, SMTP, SSH, Telnet, etc.? Understanding the network topology is super critical. Bandwidth limitations. Do you guys have bandwidth limitations? So if I'm running a scan, am I going to bog your pipe down? And yeah, fragile systems and non-traditional assets. So let's keep going. All right. So given a scenario, analyze vulnerability scan results. Asset categorization. All these cool things, it's super critical. Prioritization of the vulnerabilities. So say, you might have something low on the spectrum. Who cares, not say who cares, but like, it doesn't really matter right now. If we have something that's really, really critical that we have to patch, let's worry about let's prioritize what's important versus what's not really important. Okay. Custom themes, common themes, sorry. Vulnerabilities, observance, lack of best practices. This is super critical stuff. Whoops. So let's just go next. And explain the process of leveraging information to proper for the exploitation. So map vulnerabilities to potential exploits. So once you run your Nessus or whatever, it's going to give you a CVE number. You can go on ExploitDB or SearchSploit in your Kali and see what vulnerabilities are accessible for that machine, or what exploits, sorry, and so on and so forth. So this is some critical information. Let's just keep moving. Explain weaknesses related to specialized systems. Oh, my stomach. And so mobile, IoT, ICS, SCADA, embedded, point of sale systems, biometrics, application containers, RTOs. Okay, so let's keep going. And domain 3, attacks and exploits. This is probably everyone's favorite, right? Everyone wants to be that hacker and exploiting stuff. So phishing, right? Understanding which spear phishing, SMS phishing, which sending text messages. You probably get text messages, click this link, or you have $1 million waiting for you in the bank. Click on this. Voice phishing, which is also known as vishing. That's when you send, when people say they're the American, whatever, the Nigerian prince, and they want to try to help them get their money to America, whatever they do, I don't know. But whaling. So all these different kind of phishing attempts and business email compromise. This is pretty, it sucks because a lot of people get compromised with their emails. And you can see if you can search online to see if your email was ever exposed. Have I been pawned or anything like that? You can check out those kind of sites. Okay, the motivation techniques, authentication, social proof, urgency, like, pretty much in saying, oh, I'm so nice, and the fear, or like a panic, oh, my son got into a car accident, I need $1 million because blah 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 blah, like, or your son is hold up for ransom. I don't know. I'm just using crazy things, but like, so let's just go to 3.2. So given a scenario, exploit network-based vulnerabilities. NetBIOS names, LLMNR. So these are critical. Like if you're a Windows shop and you run like Responder and you compromise the hash and you can try to crack the hash. SMB exploits, SNMP exploits, SMTP, FTP, DNS poisoning, patch to hash. This is all cool stuff. On-path attacks. Obviously this is also known as a man-in-the-middle attack. ARP spoofing, replay, relay, SSL stripping, downgrade. DOS attacks, stress attacks, which is, you want to send out a stress test to an IP address to try not bring that IP to a halt. NAC bypass, which is network access controls bypass. VLAN hopping, that's on layer 2 of the OSI model. Okay, so let's keep going. 3.3, given a scenario, explain wireless and RF based vulnerabilities, evil twin, calmer attacks, downgrade attacks, deauthentication attacks, fragmentation attacks, credential harvesting, WPA implementation weaknesses, bluejacking, blue snorving, RFID cloning, jamming, and repeating. These are some wireless stuff you need to know for this exam. What happened? I think there's more. Okay, that was weird. All right, so then given a scenario, exploit application-based vulnerabilities. So I'm not going to go into injections, authentication, cross-site scripting, clickjacking, security misconfiguration, file, and so unsecure code practices, etc. Okay, let's just keep going. Given a scenario, exploit the local host of vulnerabilities: OS, Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, and all these kind of different attacks. Prove escalation with your Linux stuff, Windows, C password, clear text credentials, and LDAP, which is the lightweight directory protocol, and Koborosing, which is on the Active Directory stuff. You know, all this stuff is super critical to understand and know. Okay, let's just keep going. And let's see if we go to the next one. So, summarize physical security attacks. You know, piggybacking, tailgating, which, like, if you're outside smoking a cigarette, you can go inside and follow that guy inside to the facility when you don't really have a badge or whatever. Fence jumping, obviously pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully they have barbed wire if it's something important, so you won't be jumping over that fence. Dumpster diving, going into a dumpster and looking for information. Lock picking, you know, you're picking a lock. Lock bypass. Egress sensor. Badge cloning. This is all what people do. You know, you go get a badge, take a picture of someone. Maybe someone has a picture on LinkedIn of their new celebration of the Christmas party or whatever, and you can see the badge. You take a picture of it, then you can go online and make your own badge and be John Smith. Okay, so given a scenario, perform post-exploitation techniques. You know, these are some post-exploitation. So we have here PS remoting, WAN RM, SMB, RDP with remote desktop protocol. This is all, you know, stuff that you probably use on a daily. Remote access stuff, Telnet, SSH, RSH, R logins, and so on and so forth. Okay, and covering your tracks is something obviously super critical. Let's keep going. And domain 4. I want to hurry it up because it's almost a 20-minute video. So penetration testing tools. So these are all Nmap scans. So when you run an Nmap scan, you're going to be using that a lot, doing pen tests and assessments. And prepare and contrast various use case of tools, reconnaissance, and all this good stuff. I'm not going to go through all these tools because there's a lot. So different tools, scanners, like I was saying, NICTO is to do websites. OpenVAS is an open vulnerability assessment management. SQL map, so you can map out SQL maps. Nessus is also known as Tainable. That's another vulnerability. Credential testing, all these cool things, okay? I don't want to go through all of them because there's a lot. All right, so you just have to know these tools and go through them and understand these for this exam, okay? Let's keep going. So, given a scenario, analyze tool output and data related to a pen test. So, password cracking, pass to hash, setting up a bind shell, getting a reverse shell, proxying a connection, which is something like you can, you know, proxy your connection to a specific host or whatever you're trying to do. Upload a web shell, injections, okay? Given a scenario, basic shell, not limited to like Bash, Python, Ruby, PowerShell. Logic, which is looping. Flow controls, file versus terminal versus network, and all this good stuff. Common operations, string operations, compression, error handling, arrays, embedding, encoding and decoding, sorry. Okay. And last but not least, reporting and communication. Given a scenario, use report writing and handling best practices. You know, normalization of data, like understanding what you're doing and giving the client the right, you know, information when your test is done. Remediation, your executive summary, your methodology, your findings and remediation. What are you going to do to remediate those issues? Metrics and measures, risk rating, collision, blah, blah, blah. Everything on here is super critical, okay, when you're doing your reporting. And post-engagement cleanup, removing shells. So say, for example, you put a tool on a server or whatever to try to compromise it, remove it because that is not good, and make sure that's in the statement of work or the project layout, because if you have this lingering around and something happens, you are responsible. So once your assessment's done, you hand over your report, make sure you remove those tools, because if it's lingering and someone else compromises that because it was exposed to the internet, who was the last one in there? You. and you're in big trouble. So make sure you just clean up your stuff, okay? And given a scenario, recommend remediation strategies for discovered vulnerabilities. So solutions, the people, the process, the technology, whoever the person is to make the decisions, make sure they understand what vulnerabilities you discovered and how you actually went about exploiting them if they were exploitable. Okay, findings, local excuse me, findings like shared local administrator credentials. So say for example you have administrator as a password $1, and then you have Patrick, but his password, he's a domain admin, and his password $1, whatever. Weak password complexity, plain text passwords, no multi-factor authentication. Whatever the findings are, you make sure you put that in your report. Remediations, random, excuse me, minimum password requirements, password filters, encrypt your passwords, etc. Okay? Oh man, eyes burn. So explain the importance and communication during the penetration test process. Communication paths, communication triggers, critical findings, stages. This is all critical stuff. And the reasons for communication is to make sure the user or the client knows what's going on, right? The deflection, the goal, and what is the goal overall after you do the pen test to make sure it's mitigated. And that's pretty much it. And the last, before I let you guys go, this is what I'm using. I'm going to bring this over here. I'm actually using, let me actually make this bigger. I'm using, I forget his name. Holy moly, what's his name? Jason, I think. Jason Dion. Let me see. Why am I like drawing a blank with this guy? Jason Dion, yeah. So Jason Dion, this is the course that I'm watching for this exam, and it's $15 on Udemy. So it's not bad at all. Okay, and it goes through. Let's go down. Goes through all the domains, like we just talked about, and obviously there's videos, and you can go and check that out. You can just go to Udemy, put in CompTIA Pentest Plus ethical hacking course, and you'll see it. And it's like this. This is it. And it's pretty good so far. Where I'm at right now is domain 3. I'm just starting domain 3 this weekend. So hopefully that really helps. If you have any questions about it, leave a comment in the description below, and I'm more than happy to help you out whatever I can. I haven't taken the exam yet, so I don't know the questions or anything like that, but I think I'm well prepared. And I'm on my, I have the syllabus, I have those videos, and I know the stuff that I'm weak at and where I know I need to brush up on. Just make sure you know that information, and you should be good. So stay tuned. I'll let you guys know how I do. And the last thing I want to leave you guys with, if you guys follow me on social media, on my Instagram, the PDGIT Solutions or InfoSec Pat, I just got my CEI, which is Certified EC Console Instructor. I'm super stoked. I'm super blessed for that, and that's thanks to NextGen. That's where I instruct for cybersecurity, and I'm super stoked for this new journey in my life with that stuff. So awesome news. I'm actually a certified EC Console Instructor. It's like crazy to even think about that, because I remember when I took my CEH, CHFI, LPT, ECSA, and I think they're all right up there. I don't know if you can see them, and now I can instruct those courses. It's pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked, but yeah, that's it. I'll leave you with that. So thank you again. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys watched to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, and until next time, take care, guys. Thank you.